I destroyed my marriage by cheating on my amazing husband, and he left me for good. Even though I thought opening the marriage would make me happy, it ruined my life instead. After losing everyone, including my friends, family, and job, I fell into a deep depression. And almost a decade later, I'm still haunted by regret. I honestly had everything anyone could ask for, a wonderful husband who loved and cared for me. But I threw it all away with my selfish choices. If I could take it all back, I would in a heartbeat. What really hurts, even more than my guilt, is that he decided to leave rather than try to work things through with me. I wish he had stayed and helped me grow past my mistakes, instead of just cutting me off and walking away. Looking back, it's incredible how I got someone so kind and attentive in my life. My ex, let's call him Nathan, 22M, truly was an exceptional friend and partner. And yet, I squandered all his love for a meaningless fling. Here's the full story of how I lost it all. I was 20 when I first met Nathan, then 22, at the campus library. Until then, I'd never had a real relationship. I was shy, introverted, and was really focused on my studies. He was persistent. He'd approach my table every now and then, chat with my friends, sometimes join in, other times just be around. I gradually got used to having him around, even finding comfort in his presence. One day when he didn't show up, I felt uneasy and worried. Hearing my friend Mia say, maybe he got tired of waiting and moved on, unexpectedly stung. That's when I realized, though not consciously at the time, that I'd started falling for him. For 2 days. Nathan didn't come to the library. On the third day, he walked in as usual, but this time sat at another table, alone. I was bothered, and after a while, with a push from Mia, I finally worked up the courage to go over and talk to him. My apology was awkward. He later called it the cutest anime-style apology ever. He explained he just needed to focus on a big exam, but teased me about not knowing his name. I guessed at it, messing it up, but he was kind, telling me it was Nathan, not what I'd guessed, and shook my hand warmly. Before I left, he invited me on a date. Deep inside, I was thrilled, nervous, wishing, even now, that I could go back and do it differently, pay attention, show him how much he meant to me. Our first date was incredible. Nathan made me laugh, and he was so charismatic. I even noticed other girls casting jealous looks my way when we were together. He shared stories about being the runner-up for Mr. UCSB, and honestly, he fit that. We quickly became inseparable, the it couple of campus. Though, to be real, my popularity was all thanks to him. Nathan was my first for everything. First kiss, first love, first real relationship. He, however, had past relationships and more experience in the bedroom. He took time to teach me, was unfailingly patient, and always gentle. Yet, as time went on, I found myself resenting that I'd only ever been with him. It's embarrassing to admit. But that nagged at me. I felt I needed more experience to brag about, as if numbers would give my life more meaning. About a year into our marriage, which came after 5 years together, I floated the idea of opening up the marriage. I'd mentioned it before, but Nathan's flat-out no scared me, so I always dropped it. After we married, I thought maybe he'd reconsider, but he was adamant he wouldn't tolerate an open relationship. His simple, unwavering answer, "I'd leave without a second thought," made me angry. I accused him of being unfair, thinking of all his past experiences and how I had none. I felt boxed in. By our third wedding anniversary, during our long honeymoon phase, my restless desires only got worse. That's when I met someone new at the company I just started at, a man called Greg, 35M. Greg was in his 30s, tall, athletic, and carried himself with confidence. He was my direct supervisor. His flirtatious, smooth-talking ways got to me immediately. Quickly, our conversations crossed the line. I found myself wanting him, and he noticed. One Friday evening, Greg invited me for drinks. I drank more than I should have. Our talk shifted from work to far more personal topics. I confessed I wanted an open marriage to feel liberated, and admitted I had a crush on him. When he asked if I'd told Nathan, I said yes, but that Nathan would leave if I ever slept with someone else. Greg, perhaps selfishly, advised me not to wait for permission, but to just tell Nathan we were doing it for my sake. That night, Greg built me up in ways that were addicting, ways that only Nathan had ever made me feel. Except this was all new and exciting because it wasn't Nathan. We kissed that evening, and though I felt guilty, the exhilaration won out. When I got home, Nathan was asleep on the couch, probably waiting up for me. I showered, tried to sober up, and woke him. He wanted to tell me something exciting, but let me go first. I announced with cold certainty that we were opening the marriage. No discussion. I can't stand that you've been with more people than me. I want to be desired too, I told him. I need this to be happy. Nathan's face fell. He sat still for what felt like forever, before quietly saying, "Well, you've said your piece, so I guess that's that." He walked to the bedroom and said whatever he had wanted to tell me was nothing, that he was just tired. The next day, feeling justified by my own self-righteousness, I slept with Greg in his office for the first time. That opened the floodgates, not just with Greg, but with several men I met at Friday happy hours. Most weekends, I woke up beside strangers whose names I never knew, convinced it was all harmless self-exploration, that I'd grow out of it. After about 2 months, one morning, Greg showed up at my house with flowers, expecting Nathan to already be at work. Nathan opened the door. I was in the shower, but when I came out, I heard them exchanging polite small talk. Nathan, still stone-faced, joked, "So you're the guy sleeping with my wife while I fix the leaks around here?" He even opened the door for me to get into Greg's car. In my youth and stupidity, I took this as support for our open marriage, assuming he was cool with everything. That Friday, after a particularly fun night with Greg at a hotel overlooking the city, I came home to silence. It was eerily quiet. Nathan always played his music loud on weekends, but that morning, there was nothing. The gym was empty, and so was the kitchen, except for my favorite mug, which he always left out for me. But this time, the mug was empty, except for an envelope. The note inside still haunts me. He was gone. The letter, along with a flight ticket and my passport, explained that his company had offered us both paid positions in South Africa for 5 years, but now he was leaving alone and would file for divorce when he returned. Nathan wrote, painfully blunt, that while he once wanted to build a life with me, he now regretted ever knowing me, and that he wished he'd left the first time I said no. Inside the mug was also his wedding ring, and on the back of the flight ticket, the message, "This is the news I wanted to tell you." That mug, the scent of him, and the empty house, my world collapsed around me. I didn't eat or drink for a whole day, just staring at that mug, overwhelmed by the realization of what I'd thrown away. The months that followed were brutal. I sank into depression as my life came undone piece by piece. Greg's friend Mason came to move all of Greg's things out. He let me keep a box of Greg's cologne and a hoodie, but took them away the next day, saying, "Nathan told me what happened. You're a disgrace to all women." My parents, both religious ministers, disowned me when they learned the full story. I was fired from my job soon after losing all professional stability. My new boss, unlike Greg, wasn't interested in me. Even my old friends ghosted me. I realized most only tolerated me because Nathan was so well liked. Greg, for his part, transferred out of state within a week. I confronted him, hoping for comfort, but he bluntly said he'd just had his fun and was moving on. My downward spiral continued. It's been almost a decade, and I haven't had a relationship last beyond 3 months since then. My dating life is non-existent. No one wants to be with the woman who broke her husband's heart to experiment. Money has been tight. I still live in the small bungalow Nathan and I bought, unable to move on or afford therapy. I'm desperately lonely and hold on to the hope, even today, that I can apologize if I ever see Nathan again. Thank you for reading. Writing this all out has forced me to really face my own mistakes. I genuinely hope other women see this, learn from my pain, and think twice before making the choices I did. Update 1. This is my first update since posting 2 months ago. For context, this is about how my ex-husband Nathan left me after I insisted on opening our marriage, and how those decisions led to the loss of everything that once mattered to me. For the past 9 years, I have felt completely lost, like I was nobody without Nathan. Most people in my life hung around only because they adored him. Since posting my story, though, things have shifted ever so slightly. I'm pretty sure Nathan saw my confession because not long after, I got a call. The moment I heard his familiar, deep, raspy voice, I burst into tears, overwhelmed by so many emotions. We spoke for hours. Nathan shared things I never realized. He'd convinced himself I'd never actually go through with cheating, thought I was only joking at first because of my history of silly pranks. But he said that when he finally understood it was real, something broke inside him. He blamed himself for giving me too many chances, for staying until I broke his spirit. He told me he hadn't returned to the country after 5 years because it had taken him that long to finally get over me. Towards the end of his assignment overseas, he'd started to feel happiness again. He admitted he couldn't bear to see me because it threatened his new happiness. I let him know how my own life had unraveled, the jobs I'd lost, the friends I'd driven away, or who'd simply tolerated me for his sake. What had happened with Greg and all the other relationships that went nowhere. We both cried. At the end of the call, he said he'd be coming back to the US the next week and offered to come by the house. A week later, Nathan showed up, not to rekindle old feelings, but to hand-deliver the divorce papers. He walked around the house he'd once called home and noticed everything was just as he'd left it, rooms still vacant, as though frozen in time. He saw the mug with his note and wedding ring still at the bottom. For the first time in all the years I'd known him, I could finally read his emotions. He pitied me. He asked about Greg and my life since he left. When I told him everything, how Greg lasted only 2 months, how even sex with others never came close to what I had with Nathan, he just shook his head and muttered, "So you threw away 7 years for 2 months with Greg." The realization crashed upon me. Nathan had always known exactly how to please me, emotionally and physically. The men who came after were all just shadows. Nathan, remarkably, offered to pay for therapy to help me finally move forward. He told me he'd found peace and that I deserved to find some as well. In that moment, even though it was clear nothing romantic would ever return between us, he made me feel seen and cared for one last time. We finalized the divorce a month ago. I'm now a month into therapy. Thanks to Nathan's kindness. Although I still regret everything, I now see the absolute necessity of working on myself and letting go of the past, no matter how hard it is. I've made peace with sharing my story and hope never to need to post here again. Thank you all for reading. That wraps up the whole story. It is clear how individual choices, made out of restlessness or unresolved feelings, can cascade into lifelong loss. The tale functions as a reflection on the consequences of ignoring the boundaries and needs of someone we love. What do you think? What would you have done if you were in Nathan's position, or if you were faced with a partner asking to open the marriage in this way? Would you stay or would you leave? Let's discuss in the comments.